Good morning, dear students. So today we are starting a new chapter. It is after completing the shoulder complex, we are starting a new chapter, elbow complex, and introduction. The joints and muscles of elbow complex are designed to serve the hand. So in a way, we can say that the elbow complex or the joints of the elbow complex, the main aim here is to become a good, biomechanically, uh, functionally and structurally efficient, intermediary to help the or what you call as enhance the functions of the hand. So the shoulder gives the mobility and stability, and the elbow complex has to provide the necessary range of motion, functional range of motion, stability, and also flexibility so that uh, the hand can reach to where our mind desires, and in a way that it can be positioned in different positions in space. So the joints and muscles of elbow complex are designed to serve the hand. They provide mobility for the hand in space by apparent shortening and lengthening of the upper extremity. The upper, the elbow complex especially is a joint in the body. We can say that elbow joint and the knee joint has a similarity and speciality. They can increase and decrease the length of the whole limb. Supposing I'm just joking, just imagine that if God has not given us elbow, what will happen? You'll have a straight hand, shoulder will be moving, hand will be moving, but will it be useful? No, it will not be useful. Just imagine if you have if you don't have an elbow joint, if you have a longer humerus, then nobody can touch their face, and the functionally whatever range of motion or whatever artistic capability you have, the hand has functional capabilities, it will be not useful. So the elbow joint, as the knee joint in the lower limb, has the ability to apparently shortening and lengthening of the upper extremity. That is the main capability. This function allows the hand to be brought close to the face for eating, grooming, all our ADL activities, and placed at equidistance, distance at a distance from body equal to the length of entire upper extremity. So it is equally in the center of the upper extremity. Rotation at the elbow complex. So I just one more thing I just want to add, that because of this ability, this only because of this ability, we are able to reach. If elbow joint is not in a functional or structural manner, we have it now. We could not reach to each and every part of the body, even the back or the lower limb like that. So to reach properly to each and every part of our body, for all other purposes like such as hygiene and everything, this the elbow joint plays a major role. Rotation at elbow complex provides additional mobility for the hand. So this rotational or what you call functional ability in the elbow complex, all the joints of the elbow, helps in the mobility, higher mobility of the hand. In conjunction with providing mobility for the hand, the elbow complex structures are also provide stability for skilled or forceful movements of hand when performing activities with tools. The major ability of humans is that humans have hands, and the next chapter will be discussing that whatever you see in this world made by men are made by their hands and with their tools. So this ability to perform skilled activities such as anything like driving or skilled activities of any kind, so like a surgeon doing surgery, like a blacksmith doing his work, or a mason doing his masonry, all this is with tools, and it's only possible because of the hand, and that ability to function by the hand is enhanced by the mobility and stability of the elbow joint. Many of the 15 muscles that cross the elbow complex also act at either the wrist or shoulder. That means that the 15 muscles, more than 15 muscles which cross the wrist, the elbow, also across the wrist or shoulder, means they are multi-joint muscles. And therefore, the wrist and shoulder are linked with the elbow in enhancing the function of hand. That means that even the 15 muscles are crossing the elbow complex, they are either connected to the wrist or to the shoulder joint. That means that elbow joint or elbow complex functions along with the shoulder joint or the wrist or the hand complex. So what is the elbow complex? The elbow complex includes the elbow joint, which is two joints together we call as elbow joint, that is humero-ulnar joint and humero-radial joints. They are the joint between ulna and the humerus, that is called as humero-ulnar, and the joint between radius and humerus, that is humero-radial joints. And they are diorthodrodial or synovial joints. And then we have the proximal and the distal radio-ulnar joints. So elbow complex consists of four joints. They are the elbow joint, which are two joints, humero-ulnar and humero-radial joints, and then the proximal and the distal radio-ulnar joints. It is a joint between the radius and ulna. We have two joints between the radius and ulna. One is proximal and one is distal. So altogether we have four joints. The elbow joint consisting of humero-ulnar and humero-radial joints, which are both are, so anyway all are synovial joints only. Here the only difference is it's a more kind of interossea joint, radio-ulnar joint. And the elbow joint is considered to be a compound joint that functions as a modified or loose hinge joint. The elbow joint is considered as a compound joint that functions as a modified or loose hinge joint. They consider as a hinge, like hinge joint means the hinge, like a door. The door opens and closes. It's a hinge. We have a hinge between the two parts of the door, and similar. But here it is not exactly a hinge. We will discuss that later, because we call it as a modified, means there is some kind of a change structurally and functionally we compare it to the normal accurate hinge joint. So they are called either as a modified or as a loose hinge joint. So what is the degree of freedom? 1 degree of freedom is possible at the elbow joint, permitting the motions of flexion and extension, which occurs in because here you have to understand the axis and plane we are talking about is in anatomical position. But when the shoulder flexes or extends further, the plane may change. But this is for your understanding that in the anatomical position, the elbow joint is able to, the only degree of freedom is flexion and extension in elbow joint, but the major function is friction and extension, and it happens in sagittal plane around the coronal axis. A slight bit of axial rotation and side to side motion of the ulna occurs during flexion and extension, and that is why the elbow joint is considered to be a modified or loose hinge joint rather than a pure hinge joint. So the main movement or the degree of freedom here is flexion and extension in anatomical position, which occurs in a sagittal plane around a coronal axis. And with that, why do we call this as a loose hinge joint or a modified hinge joint rather than a pure hinge joint? Is only because there is a slight bit of axial rotation, or we can and the side to side motion of the ulna occurring during flexion and extension. We will understand about that more better later. Two major ligaments and 5 muscles are directly associated with the elbow joint. We are talking not about the elbow, we are talking about the elbow joint. The two major ligaments and 5 muscles are directly associated with the elbow joint. 3 of the muscles are flexors, which are in the anterior compartment that crosses the anterior aspect of the joint. The other 2 muscles are extensors, that cross the posterior aspect of the joint. The proximal and distal radioulnar joints are linked and function as one joint. The proximal and distal radioulnar joints, even though we anatomically study them as two different joints, but their function is a linked function, like a chain function, which functions as a single joint. The two joints acting together produce rotation of the forearm and have 1 degree of freedom of motion. Though here we are talking about the proximal, so they have 1 degree of freedom of motion. The radioulnar joints are diarthrodial uniaxial joints of the pivot trochoid type. This is also a uniaxial. This is also a diarthrodial synovial joint, but it has a slight difference in the variety of joint. That is, it's a pivot joint, but a trochoid type pivot, and permits rotation of supination and pronation. The 1 degree of freedom here is supination and pronation in anatomical the anatomical position, which occurs in transverse plane around a longitudinal axis or a vertical axis. 6 ligaments and 4 muscles are associated with these joints. 2 muscles are for supination and 2 muscles are for pronation. The elbow joint and the proximal radioulnar joint are enclosed in a single joint capsule but constitute distinct articulation. The elbow joint and the proximal radioulnar joint, the excluding without the distal radioulnar joint, are enclosed in a single joint capsule of a synovial joint capsule, but constitute two different because even though they are covered by a single synovial capsule, they are two different joints. Structure of the, so first we will go through the structure of the elbow joint, that is humero-ulnar and humeroradial articulations. So what are the articulating surfaces on the humerus? Here you can see the distal end of the humerus, that is the down end of the humerus. This is the anterior view. You can see the shaft, the lower end of the shaft of the humerus, you can see it, and you can also see the medial epicondyle and the lateral epicondyle. This is the lateral epicondyle. This is the medial. Then if this is medial epicondyle and this is lateral epicondyle and this is the anterior view, then it has to be the right humerus. It has to be the right humerus. And then you can see this. This is a hourglass shaped hourglass. You know the hourglass. If you flip and keep it, the sand will fall down. Earlier, it was considered as to measure time. So it is a figure of 8 shaped, what we otherwise called as the hourglass shape. This is the trochlea. Then you have another one just attached near to the trochlea is a spherical shape, which is near to the lateral epicondyle. This is called as the capitulum. And then you have a groove between the capitulum and the trochlea, which is called as the capitulotrochlear groove. The groove between the capitulum and the trochlea is called as the capitulotrochlear groove. And then you have the hourglass shaped, the figure of 8 shaped trochlea, which also in the center has a groove called as the trochlear groove. Just above the trochlear groove, you have the coronoid fossa. The coronoid fossa, where the coronoid process of the coronoid process should come and of the ulna, just above, below what you call distal to the olecranon process. In the anterior aspect, we have the coronoid process of the ulna, which should come and lodge into this corona. That's why we named this as they have named this as coronoid fossa, because the coronoid process will come and lodge here, and during the flexion, and when they lodge, and this is a bony block, and so you have to remember that you have a trochlea, and just above the trochlea on the anterior surface of the humerus, you have the coronoid fossa, where the coronoid process of the ulna should come and lodge. And during extension, what will happen? Just posterior to this, there will be a olecranon fossa, where the olecranon process will go and lodge, and that is also the bony